Hey, it's Dr. Rowe here, hope you're well. Apologies about the noise, the builders are on site here and I'm just want to do a quick video for you. See if I can set it up there. Okay, so I'm just about to head down to the solicitors to do some refinancing on a couple of my properties that are owned through a limited company. I just want to tackle this subject with you briefly, and you will need to take some advice on this personally. I'm going to try and find a place to lock the camera so it's not shaking there. That's better. Okay, so apologies about all the light in the background. Yeah, so if you're doing refinancing at the moment, there's a lot of changes been happening just with the way the banks operate and the information they require from you. Owning a property in your own name has very different tax implications to owning a property in a limited company, and I'm not here to give you advice on that, and you actually need to go and speak to an accountant, tax specialist to give you some specific advice on that. But there are tax benefits to owning a property in a limited company. Again, you will need to speak to an accountant about that to get advice on it. So if you own properties in your own name and you're doing a refinance, the process is actually a lot simpler at the moment in terms of the paperwork, the signing of the paperwork, the witness of the paperwork, signing of the mortgage deeds, etc. That is relatively straightforward, assuming that you're working with a really good broker. With a limited company, on the other hand, it is a more drawn out process. So, for example, I'm just going at the moment to my solicitor, and what I'm having to take with me is the mortgage guarantee, the mortgage deed. I've also got some paperwork there that I have to take with me, which includes not just the mortgage offer, but there's also board meetings for the directors of the company, all who are actually confirming that we are happy to do, and this is whether you are the director of the company or whether there's several directors in the company. Ultimately, the board meeting has to say that we as the directors were happy to go for a refinance with this lender. So you normally have to state the lender, the amount of money that the lender is lending you, and the address of the property, and then the minutes have to have a date on them, and it's just confirmation that you are of sound mind and that you've all made that decision together, and they have to be kept as a record, and actually you'll need to take that with you to show the solicitor as well. So whereas in the old days it was a lot quicker, and that's not to say it isn't quicker, it's still relatively quick compared to, say, somebody getting a mortgage in their own name. If you're going for a mortgage in your own name, it's a lot slower process, I personally feel, than going from a refinance or a mortgage in a buy-to-let or a HMO, for example. So it's not as though you're just rocking up now to a solicitor with a single piece of paper. He's also got to witness me sign off on all the guarantee paperwork as well. So that means that I'm going to be paying additional lawyer fees that I wouldn't have to pay on the refinancing of any properties that I've got in my own name. And I do still have certain properties in my portfolio that are in my own name, but equally any properties that are in a company name and I'm doing a refinance, what then happens is that I take that to the solicitor, I sit down with him or her, I present them with the deed, the mortgage deed, with the mortgage offer, with the mortgage guarantee, or the personal, and excuse me, I keep getting a phone call coming in, and on top of all of that, any other paperwork I need to take with me. And then there's a fee attached to that. Now, it won't be a very quick, £50, £100 fee. It could be a lot more than that. It could be £200-300 or more, depending on the solicitor you're using, the scale of the project, the size of the mortgage, and the complexity of the deal as well. So again, be mindful of all these things, because for a lot of people, when they're doing refinancing, they don't take these costs into account, and it is important to allow for that as well. So sometimes if you look at a remortgage, the amount that you're pulling out has to be enough to justify going through all that process, and also, of course, it needs to be enough to allow you to reduce your return, your money in the deal, so it increases your return on investment. And these are numbers I can do with you on a separate occasion. I might get a flip chart up actually here and just do some stuff on the wall to show you how I would sort of typically do that. So again, if you've not done a refinance on a limited company and you're thinking, oh yeah, I'm just going to go in, buy the property in a limited company, do a quick refinance and off I go, just be aware that it isn't as quick as it would be if it was in your own name, and it's not as quick as it would have been in the old days. There is that longer process, and you've got to find an independent lawyer to do this for you. So you're going to need to find yourself a solicitor that you know, that knows you, that you've got a relationship with. If you haven't got a relationship with them and they don't know you, they're going to have to get proof of who you are. You're going to have to bring your passport with you, proof of address. All those things are very common, but if you're brand new to the solicitor, they don't know, you're going to have to go through that process with you. Now, the more refinances you do with a solicitor, the easier it's going to be, because they know you, they've sat down with you before, they know that you're familiar with it, so they'll be able to go through it in a smoother way. Not necessarily quicker, but certainly in a smoother way. And ultimately you're signing on the dotted line. Once that paperwork's done, one of two things can happen. One is they will photocopy it and send it off, because remember, what I've got here is I've got one solicitor doing the refinancing. I've then got an independent solicitor I'm going to, that I have to go through independent advice with my guarantee to say, yes, I understand that, I understand the risk, etc. So I've got two sets of legal fees. I've got the refinancing fees, and then I've got the separate fees where I'm going through the witnessing and all of that paperwork as well. So it's not just the refinancing legal fees, it's a separate set of fees that you're going to have. And again, I just want you to be aware of this, and if you haven't set this up and you're thinking, great, I'm going to get this over the line, and your refinancing lawyer says to you, okay, you need to go and find an independent lawyer, and you go, well, where do I find one? I haven't got one nearby. Then it might be a bit of a journey to do that. Some solicitors will do it over FaceTime with you if they're familiar with you and they've got all the paper. I'll finish off here because I've got somebody still trying to call me. Hopefully that's useful. It's really the main message here was to make sure that you're aware that it isn't as quick a process as you might think, as if you're doing it in your own name. And if you plan for it, it will be efficient, but just be mindful there's more paperwork, it's more complex in a limited company than it would be just in your own name. It's Dr. Rose signing out. I've got to get off and I've got to pick up this phone call and I've got to go to the solicitors.